urban legend is, if you say his name 5 times while looking in the mirror, he appears in the reflection and kills you.
Who would do that?
Candyman. 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 Candyman.
Well, we're still alive. Let's go. Trina, you broke the door.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hello there.
This week, we'll discuss the new classic, the new 2021 Candyman. Good times.
Not farewell to the flesh?
Not farewell to the flesh, thank goodness. Farewell to farewell in the flesh is what I say.
Yeah.
Good times.
I had high expectations, man. But I'm afraid Jordan Peele may be doing the M. Night slide, if you ask me.
Well, I got a lot to say. Go ahead and give us your 30-second synopsis.
All right. Artsy fartsy people living on it's like a poltergeist idea, living on what used to be Cabrini Green, the project in Chicago. Oh, someone tells a scary story when you're all liquored up, and now that inspires an artist who's been stuck. I'm gonna find out about the Candyman legend. So he starts looking at records, starts cruising around what's left of Cabrini Green to get inspiration, runs into some dude who was there and tells him the story, and he gets the fever. Next thing you know, he gets stung by the bee. Next thing you know, he gets like MRSA or something. If that was your boyfriend, you'd be like, dude, you're not sleeping in my bed with that festering stump. Go to the frickin' doctor. That had to smell so bad. And of course, he becomes like the Candyman, while at the same time, the guy who told him the story gets crazy and is going to make him the Candyman. So a lot like the first one, there's some confusing shit going on. Right. But this is all under the umbrella of Black Lives Matter, which I was really excited about. But in the end, it all falls short. He becomes Candyman, except he's supposed to be, I don't know. The new Candyman is out to protect, he's like a superhero to protect Black people, although that wasn't that clear either. Da-da-da! The end.
That is a question mark. Because you're right. It's like, are we supposed to think that now Candyman is out to kill all the cops in Chicago? Because what's her name is...
And teenagers.
Did he kill... Well, at the end, she's the one who says... Spoiler alert. She's the one who says, Candyman, whatever. Notice I will not say it. And Candyman appears... Candyman appears and
like
murders...
Beetlejuice.
It is like Beetlejuice. And murders all the cops, but lets her go. Did you notice that?
Well, I think when you're having sex with Candyman, then you get some leeway.
I don't think she's having sex
but
before.
Candyman killed the snotty teenagers, right? In the bathroom at the high school.
Well, that was the previous Candyman, not the current Candyman.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, am I supposed to understand that there's a difference now? So at this moment, the universe opens up and all the versions of Candyman through history are sucked into this now floating bee-head body. And now he's part of the Marvel universe. Is that what I'm supposed to understand?
I don't even know. It's hard.
Because at one point, he also kills some African-American teenagers who are shouting Candyman. Remember then the little kid is peeking in and sees just the blood in the bodies of his sisters. And
you know who that was. Don't you know who the little boy was in all those flashbacks?
All right. So are we to understand that this is it the dry cleaner?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, exactly. Well, that wasn't made clear. I don't think that was made clear. I thought that was present time.
No, it was made clear to me that he was the little boy who took the candy from the Candyman of the 70s, and he's the one who screamed and the cops came and killed him. So he had guilt, and then the next scene is his sister goes in and says the Candyman and is murdered by that Candyman, which he's traumatized and nuts, which is why in present day he does what he does.
Oh, all right. So we're to understand now the latest and the greatest version is if you get pulled over by the cops, look in the rearview mirror and just shout out, Candyman, 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 Candyman.
That's
or
exactly right.
if you're a bitchy white girl. So this is what I'm confused about at the high school.
Yes.
So are they implying if they hadn't said mean things to the girl who entered the bathroom that they would have just strolled right out? But because they said, and in the world of high school bullying, it was pretty light. Because they said that's why they were all butchered. Otherwise, they would have just breezed out.
No.
Is that what we're understanding?
No.
Well, then what is he?
I think he's just a murderer. Well, the thing about it is, in the initial movie, which this is a direct sequel to, it references things that happen in the first. Evidently, they reference things that happen in the first movie, but skip over the two sequels. They basically did what the new Halloween movie did, where they made it like a direct sequel to only the first movie.
But in the first movie, he was literally just preying on the people in the projects.
Right. It was
black on black crime.
It was anybody who said Candyman so many times, basically.
But no one had heard of Candyman except for the people in the projects.
Right. Well, there was if you remember, there was the urban legend at the beginning of the original movie with like Ted Raimi and his girlfriend are in the bathroom saying it. And that's like the first urban legend of white people.
Wait a minute. Back up.
Yeah.
Ted Raimi was on the first one?
He was in the opening scene. He was in the opening scene where it was like the young white couple say it. Because remember...
that takes me back. I used to love Xena Warrior Princess.
There you go. So initially it was just there without, basically whoever said it was getting killed. Like there was no agenda beyond that, theoretically.
It was all very Bloody Mary.
But it was also like you say, exactly. But like you say, it's like some people say it and are instantly killed. And this was true of the first movie. Some people say it and there's like a 10-minute beat and then they're killed. Some people say it and then people around them are killed and they're not killed. It's all random and crazy. Who's to say what the story is?
Yeah, I was reading some little synopsis and they were pushing forward that really like he's an avenger for African Americans.
Which wasn't what he was.
But that's why those teenagers got killed.
See, I didn't see it. Did you see it that way? You felt that they were mildly mean to the girl?
I didn't see it that way. I just thought, okay, well, you said it, now you're dead. It doesn't matter whether they were mean or not. But other reviewers, I'm just saying, have saying that's the reason.
Okay.
They're trying to move forward with the idea of, like I said, Marvel Universe.
But we already,
superhero.
Like we said, we already established that the African American girls in that one scene went into their own bathroom and said it and were killed.
Right. So that's why I was confused. But now you're pointing out to me that in reality was in the past.
Right.
But now moving forward with new Uncle Festerham.
Uncle Festerham.
We're doing something else. They're trying to. It's a protective Candyman.
I mean, I think that's what they're trying to say.
So in the original one, we're talking about like a turn of the century. He's an artist,
right?
Dating a white woman and killed on that. In this version, which I actually kind of like this one. I mean, it's very topical. Of course, he's like the weirdo who lives in the ghetto. Who's just you see these people all the time. The little freaky dude who gives candy to the kids, but some little white girl got razor blades, so they all think it's this guy.
Right.
So the police come, they beat him to death. Oh, it wasn't him. The razor blade continues. The legend begins.
Well,
So now, yeah, at that point, he becomes like this. Well, actually, it doesn't become, because he does kill the teenagers, the black teenagers in Cabrini Green for calling his name. So at some point through time, there's a shift.
well,
So you're saying the shift is with the new Candyman.
well, basically, this is what the new mythology from this movie is, that every so many years, some African American person is wrongfully murdered by the white establishment, let's say.
Right.
And then at that point, they are basically possessed by the spirit of the original Candyman that we all know and love. Okay? Every few years. So the one who you see through the majority of this movie was the Candyman from the 70s. Now, it makes sense he was called the Candyman because he was a weird guy who had just a prosthetic limb who gave candy to kids. He like had the little kind of
Right. It wasn't a hook.
No.
It wasn't a hook. It was your normal, like, I lost my arm, maybe through diabetes from eating all that nasty hard candy.
I mean, it was a hook, but it wasn't like a meat hook. It was kind of like a prosthetic.
No, it was a proper prosthetic hook.
Right. So this at least gives us some rationale for why he's called the Candyman, because there was never any reason why he should have been called the Candyman before.
Correct.
So there's at least that. But that's all new. That every 30 years or whatever, a new person is murdered in kind of this ritualistic way by the cops or whatever. And then they become that avenging person. But again, it's vengeance against, like you said, whoever says Candyman. And the only people who seem to know about it are the people in this Cabrini Green area of Chicago.
Right. Yeah, well, that's what I was like, this is terrible. It's like, so you're murdered by white cops and you're going to kill your own people.
Right.
That seems very misdirected.
Well, because in the first movie, they were trying to tell a little bit of a social story, because there was that reference to, there are the projects, and Helen Lyle,
Right.
played by Virginia Madsen, lived in a gentrified former project. You know what I mean?
Right.
Her apartment used to be the projects that have been now all fancified. Okay.
Right. It's like Poltergeist. Her apartment is built over the cemetery that used to be Cabrini Green.
Right. So this movie, which I think is kind of interesting, because it's definitely told from an African-American point of view. The director's African-American.
Right.
The story, the protagonists are all African-American. And they deal...
It makes more sense to me.
Right. There are definitely parts that make more sense. They definitely tried to kind of knit all of these things together in kind of a narrative that makes some sense. But I found where it kind of fell apart, and we just kind of jumped right in, by the way. We're neck deep in the WTF section of the show. Where it started to fall apart for me was that the crazy dry cleaner guy basically has become kind of a disciple of Candyman, in a sense, where he's like, we need a new Candyman, I guess, even though there's one clearly already out there doing things, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, here's the ritual. You know, you've been stung by the crazy Africanized killer bee. Evidently, that's why, sweet Lord.
The Africans.
Exactly.
To reference one of our other movies.
To reference the swarm. And now you're slowly like turning into a honeycomb or something. I'm going to chop your hand off.
I was like, what is that kind of pox you have? It was getting more disgusting and disturbing by the minute.
Yeah, I mean, that was the most gut churning part of the thing, is watching his hand. And you think there'd be like, he literally...
And he's
Go
He's
ahead.
picking at it. He's picking at it and squeezing it. What is that, pus or honey coming out?
Who's to say? I mean, you think as his girlfriend or whatever, you'd say, "Honey, we need to put some Bactine on there, a little cortisone or something," right?
Little Neosporin.
And then he actually does wind up in the hospital, the emergency room, and the doctor's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you came when you did." And then she just like wraps it in a bandage and sends him out the door. I think we need more than that, honey. I don't know what you think is happening here.
There's some IV antibiotics for sure.
Something. A salve, a poultice.
Dude, you need to be sedated, Brother Bear.
Frankly, I need to be sedated just by looking at it. Good Lord.
It was nasty. And it kept having close-ups of him like picking it.
Yes.
I was like, no!
Peeling it like a grape at one point. I was horrified. Anywho.
As a visual artist, you might need your right hand since you're a painter.
Hello. So he gets his hand cut off, puts him in like a crazy, like the Candyman, like pimp coat with the big old like wool collar or whatever it was. But the final touch is he calls the cops and says Candyman's on the loose over here.
Right.
So that when because he knows when the cops arrive, even though he's like laying on the ground, totally defenseless, that the evil white cop will show up and just shoot him dead, unprovoked. And that will be the final spell or whatever.
Right.
So, and now
I argue this is all totally unnecessary. You needed him at the beginning to tell you the legend, and that's it. You don't need him to be sawing arms off. I mean, he's literally already transforming. Plus, you get all the final information when he goes to meet with his mom. I don't think we needed the dry cleaner to be the kidnapper and all this other nonsense.
Right. Well, I kind of thought that he would have to lose his hand due to the weird infection going on in it. That's what I thought.
Exactly. The MRSA, the flesh-eating bacteria. Farewell to the flesh.
Literally.
See? Farewell to the flesh.
It all comes back.
I expected him to wake up and just the skin just sloughs off and it's like a chicken claw.
Right. I thought he was literally going to go to the doctors and like, that hand's going to have to come off right now. And here's a prosthetic meat hook.
Of course.
Right.
Meet a lost opportunity. Yeah. Having the guy go crazy, the dry cleaner go crazy, I think was a misstep.
Well, it seemed kind of anticlimactic, honestly.
Yeah.
I
agree.
You definitely you knew at some point, okay, he's becoming the Candyman. He's going to be the new Candyman at one point. But then it was just kind of like the way they finally delivered it was kind of disappointing, I thought.
Yeah, the minute he got stung by the bee, I knew it was on.
I didn't know it was on until I saw his hand and it was all jacked. Then I knew it was on. I'm like, okay, I see what's happening. Good Lord. Let's jump in with our highlights like we've been talking about for the last hour. I liked how the movie started and you hear a crazy garbled version of Sammy Davis Jr. singing the Candyman. I like
that.
The Candyman can. And all of the lettering in like the opening credits or whatever were all mirror images. They're all in reverse. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
That was dynamite.
I did notice that. I was like, you're looking into the mirror. You're looking into the mirror. Yay!
That was cool.
That was creative genius. Yeah, that was great.
No, totally.
Love the Sammy Davis Jr. too.
Oh, you gotta love Sammy. Sammy's the best.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Honestly, there's some stuff that really, really work, but like we said, the parts that don't work are some of the fingers of the story, like the original Candyman.
Right.
So it's interesting they chose to keep the confusion there. They do this whole series with these silhouettes, and I at first I thought it was Kara Walker. She's this African American artist who's famous for these huge silhouette projects, but it's actually not her. But I mean, I thought that was a fantastic way of telling the story. And then if you stayed at the end, there's this whole upsetting story told by silhouettes, which apparently you can go find online. That has been released as its own little mini.
Well, I
movie.
think it was like the history of Candyman, of the character, like told
It
in
was.
these shadow puppet kind of things.
Based on real events. So they told the story of the Candyman story, but they also mixed in like that horrible story during all the Black Lives Matter. Everybody posted the story of this, like, I think it was like 14 years old, this little boy who whistled at a girl, or they said
Emmett Till.
Anyway, the one that
Yeah.
that was executed.
Yes.
Oh, it's so upsetting. I had to unfollow people during that whole thing. I'm like, I can't look at babies that are being executed.
Horrible.
There's horror, and then there's the horror of real life. I don't want the horror of real life.
Right.
So that end movie was just disturbing, but it was amazing.
Oh, no question. No question. Now, I saw this movie in the theater. Well, we all saw it in the theater. Where else are you going to see it?
We all saw it in the theater.
I brought my pad and paper, and so I'm trying to take notes in the dark as I'm watching it. So now I'm looking at it going, what in the hell is this trying to say? It's just basically chicken scratch. I had to go out and buy like one of those pens that have the light built into it. I think you told me about it. I'm like,
oh yeah, like high fidelity.
Like high fidelity.
Yeah.
So I'll be ready next time. So
I'm sure the people sitting next to you will be so excited by that.
They'll love it. What can I say?
Luckily for me, well, one, I forgot my notebook, but there was no one in the theater. There were some assholes who were sitting on the same row as me at the end, who talked and answered phone calls the whole time.
That's a bummer.
And then there was another group at the very back of the theater. Otherwise, that was it.
There weren't many people in ours. I went with our sister Tara. She took me to the movies as a kind of a late birthday present, so that was cool.
I see.
And she bought popcorn, so you can't beat that.
I bought popcorn too.
So the main character is like an artist, and they were talking about how when they gentrify these areas in Cabrini Green, which has since been torn down, you notice, basically they had to. They couldn't show him going to the old Cabrini Green. Instead, they had to show to him going to what they call the row houses, which still exist. But one of his pieces is apparently like you open up like a medicine cabinet and you look inside, and then there's like a room in there of kind of graffiti art all over the walls, kind of a reference to Candyman kind of thing. And I kept thinking to myself,
right, how convenient that the art gallery had this whole secret unused storage area that was totally empty, that he could do that.
And how do you sell that piece? Like I say, I want that.
No, you can't sell that piece.
I want to buy that.
I go to these exhibitions, and well, it's like Christo and Jean-Claude, when they're wrapping the, Arc de Triomphe, you're obviously not buying that. So the way they make their money is with photographs of the thing. So it's the same kind of a thing. I've gone to these exhibitions like in Italy where it's just like a room filled with balls of twine. Okay, well, that's obviously not going in your living room. So they have to make money other ways. So sometimes they get sponsors, like Jean-Claude and Christo. You get sponsors, and then you sell posters and stuff like that. So maybe that's his game. I don't know. Or he's just trying to get notoriety.
So what's funny is he would talk to the critic on multiple times, and she would just be like, yeah, this sucks. Just to his face. I mean, I know you're a critic, but that's cold-blooded. Yeah, not feeling this one, pal. Moving on. Sad situation.
So this is a commentary on the critic, because now once there's murder and there's heat, now she wants to get her name attached to it.
Right. She changed her opinion of the piece based upon the murders that soon occur. Because, he's...
Right.
Go ahead.
She's chasing the publicity.
Right. Now, I'll say this about this movie. I'm not sure I found it all that scary. But
I would say it is not scary, which is a cardinal sin.
I agree. But I also found it shot beautifully. Really, I mean, the visuals and the use of like mirrors. Like there was one scene, the murder in the in the bathroom, in the school bathroom. You see somebody's like mirrored sunglasses, or no, it wasn't mirrored sunglasses. It was the compact like crashed up on the floor, and then the reflection, you just see like part of like a Candyman kind of appear. There are really cool visuals in this movie, really artistic work.
100%.
I just wish it was scarier. That's all I'm gonna say.
I wish it was scarier. Yeah, the flaws are in the story,
Right?
Not in the music, not in the credits, not in the visuals are amazing.
Performances were great.
There's just some flaws in the story.
Right.
Performances were great, but it's not scary. It's not scary, and there's huge holes in the story. One of the best visuals, I thought, is at the very end with floating Candyman, where you don't even see his face. It's just a haze of bees.
Right.
That I thought that looked, and he's just kind of hovering. I thought that was bad ass.
And you saw something similar to that a few times in the movie, where it's clear he's not walking; he's just kind of floating around.
Oh yeah,
that was good stuff.
Oh yeah, that was great.
He's in this elevator in the library with all mirrors all around him, which is really cool. And then like a piece of candy like clatters down to the ground, and he picks it up and he's like going to eat it. I'm like, who eats random candy they find on the ground? I don't think I'm doing that, even if I'm half possessed by Candyman. No thanks.
Yeah, 4-year-olds do that. You like leave it there. It literally looks like some weird old candy, like someone's great grandmother would try to pass on. Nobody says, "I wish I had some of that weird hard candy."
It's like Werther's Originals.
Now I could get behind some butterscotch or something, but I don't want like the weird 1920s strawberry candy.
Oh, right.
Or crazy. What if the Candyman gave out that weird ribbon candy, which eventually, just because of humidity, just fuses into a lump?
That would be the ultimate crime, I think. No question.
I had a friend who loved that. I'm like, oh my God, are you 100 years old?
Maybe she's Candyman.
Candyman.
So,
that's one.
There you go. Be careful. Later in the movie, he goes and visits the critic, like we said. The critic is now all interested. And she goes to the bathroom for some reason. And he's picking his arm.
For hours she's in the bathroom.
She had a big lunch. Who's to say? And so his hand is all oozy and sick. So he takes one of her cloth napkins and wraps it around his hand. I was like,
oh my God.
What the? You're just taking one of her cloth napkins? How about ask for a band? I mean, I guess we're beyond Band-Aids at this stage of the game, but really? One of my fancy cloth napkins? Thanks. Help yourself. Sweet Lord. We're paper towels.
And did you find it weird? Did you find it weird that he like snuck off to this? Like, wouldn't you tell your girlfriend you're meeting with the critic? Wouldn't you be excited? Hey, they're giving me a second chance. I mean, you're living and dying by critics.
Well, that was the thing. It was kind of a weird something going on. It's like the moment he starts researching Candyman and he talks to the crazy old laundromat guy, then he's half possessed the rest of the movie, where he's like obsessed with the story. All of his art is now Candyman centric, where it's like he's like an addict, basically.
So I guess this is my new theory. So it's a group project. So you release this one conceptual piece with the hope that someone gets excited by it, where then you can turn that into a solo show. So he's basically doing these giant canvases of dead black men murdered by the white establishment, because that's what you want over your bed, I guess, while you sleep.
That's exactly right.
Well, it's like, were we having the conversation that Elton John bought the picture of the guy falling out of the building on 9/11?
Oh my God.
Maybe that was somebody else. So there's this famous photograph where you see the building and you see a person falling midair. So Elton John bought that. And where are you displaying that in your house? Oh my God, I thought I had this conversation with you about whether you photograph, do you as a photographer, what is your responsibility? And his answer, because I think it's the same guy who shot the picture of Bobby Kennedy, even though his wife was yelling at him not to take pictures. And his answer is, my responsibility is not to you. My responsibility is I'm a journalist and I'm capturing history.
Okay, we're having two different discussions here. If your job is you're a photojournalist, there is some truth in the fact that you need to record history. If you are an artist whose medium is, photography, I think that's different in a way. I think.
Well, what I'm saying is, obviously, there's going to be someone who, if Elton John is hanging the picture of a dude falling from 9/11,
that's the issue.
Then obviously someone is going to buy these pieces of the faces of these dead men.
I think his earlier work they were obviously very kind of socially conscious. Like, here's a black man with a noose around his neck, kind of thing. His later pictures,
but he was stuck.
Right,
he was stuck. He couldn't move beyond that.
The later pictures that you're talking about are all pictures of Candyman. Those are all because again,
various Candymen. Right?
Yeah. Somebody posted on Twitter
because his whole wall is pictures of the faces of all these dead African American men.
It's like I posted. It's like I liked his earlier work. His later stuff, not so much, because that's what it is. It's all Candyman focused.
Well, and his earlier work is all, it has that the Free South Africa apartheid vibe to it. It has a very 80s look to it. Late 80s, early 90s look to it. And he's stuck. That's the problem. He's stuck. He doesn't know how to move on.
And I guess the idea is his girlfriend works for like a famous, gallery? Is that what's happening? And the only reason...
She's like a curator.
Right. The only reason his work is even there is as a favor to her, basically, is what we are led to believe.
Yeah.
Like the guy...
A favor from her.
Well, yes, a favor from her, but also her boss. Her boss is like, I'm doing this as a favor to her because you're her layabout live-in boyfriend who doesn't have a normal 9-to-5 job. Basically, you're not bringing any income, Pally.
He is the lamprey in the situation, attached to her as a parasite. She believes in him and is pushing everyone to accept him, but really, he's kind of a dick. She's bringing in famous people and pushing, and he doesn't deserve it.
He seemed fine at the beginning of the movie. It isn't until he's got a dash of the candy in him that he becomes kind of a weirdo. That's what it's like. Right. Now he's being weird and bizarre at the dinner table where they're trying to meet like the famous curators of New York and Chicago. Hey, we want to hire you, while he's spazzing out at the end of the table. That's
right. It makes her look bad. It makes her look like that she's forcing this loser boyfriend on all the art people, and it's damaging her reputation.
Right. Although I have to say, if you know your boyfriend's kind of a loose cannon, there's no rule that says you got to bring him to dinner. Right? Am I wrong?
Right. Well, I think the problem is in the art scene these days, it's not only the artwork, it's the cult of personality. You need to be either some weird eccentric, which clearly he is, or you need to be like a Jeff Koons when you're out there banging the gong. You got to put your face everywhere. It's all about your personality and who you get along with and who you like. It's like acting. There are a lot of fantastic actors, fantastic artists out there that are that you're never going to hear about because it's luck and it's who you know, it's marketing, blah, blah. They say it's 90% marketing.
Well,
and if you can't even bring your asshole boyfriend around to meet famous people, then good luck.
And no one knows shameless self-promotion more than I do, frankly, if you've seen my Twitter feed. Good Lord.
That's what you
The
gotta
show.
do. That's what you gotta do these days. You're competing against, it's a global world. You're competing against the
Oh, no
world.
question.
And you gotta be okay with that.
This is kind of interesting. So they go and meet like the curators from New York and Chicago are both kind of vying for her attention. They're like, well, now that your boss has been brutally murdered, and literally the guy says at one point, well, Clive had to die. And I'm like, didn't he just die yesterday? Are we being so cavalier about his life thus far?
So this is a commentary about the art world, art galleries, art critics. It's all very controversial
Really?
now. That instead of art leading the way, art is playing catch up these days.
See.
Oh well, now you know what I mean. It used to be back in the day. Artists would create this new style, and it was all fresh and original. And now it's all just seems to be a rehash of the same old shit, or something happened in the news, and now 2 minutes later, I've created a new project about it.
That's interesting. Well, like they say, people are buzzing over your work. That's a line from the movie Buzzing. Buzzing. They're bees.
They tried to throw... Yes, bees, Candyman. Yeah, they tried to throw in a couple of whammies.
There were a couple of whammies.
I didn't even laugh. I was like,
oh, your soul is black and dead. I enjoyed it. One thing I did think was cool was the realization, because again, there's a whole part where they kind of tell the story of the original Candyman, told from kind of the perspective of that Helen Lyle was a crazy person. From the first movie, the Virginia Madsen was really guilty of all the things that people thought she was guilty of in that first movie. How she had stolen the baby and killed the dog and tried to burn the baby in the bonfire, which we know that's not what happened.
But it's like telephone. As each generation comes up, the story changes a little bit.
So in my mind, the cool reveal is that the central protagonist in this movie was the baby in that first movie. I thought that was kind of a cool connection.
That was pretty good. But they never explained what the issue is with his mother, though. Why is he ignoring her calls? Why is it that she's shut out? They never really explained that. Did you understand
I understood why they didn't show her, because they wanted to be the grand reveal when they finally showed her, because it's Vanessa Williams from the first movie.
But they always showed like it. But my point is that he kept getting these phone calls from his mom that he would just let go to voicemail.
Well, they kind of said, because they were all supposed to have dinner with her, and he forgot. He blew it off because he was doing Candyman stuff, and his girlfriend came in and basically said, well, she said that I was just with you for your money, or she tried to pay me to leave, or it was some kind of like there's friction between his mother and his girlfriend kind of thing.
He has money? I thought he was the layabout.
That's not correct, but it was something like that. It was some kind of, you need to leave my boy alone kind of thing. You need to stop seeing my boy, even though he lives with you and you take care of him and pay for his everything.
And you're like the only reason why anyone in the art world of Chicago knows who the hell he is.
So they kind of set up briefly that there's some kind of, my mom's calling again. I don't want to hang out with my mom. I don't want to see my mom thing. But that was really just a plot device so that we didn't get to see her until later. And then it's a reveal like, oh, hey, it's Vanessa Williams from the first movie. So, which I have to say, she looks exactly the same. She has not aged a day in years.
Yeah.
Good for her. Good stuff. Let's see. Why did she run out the front door? I don't know what that means. I can't understand my
notes. That's my problem with half my notes. I write down, why is this? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what?
So, okay. And then later in the movie, so the reveal is Vanessa Williams, and then she tells her son, because her son thought he was born on the South Side. And instead, when he went to the hospital for his gangrenous arm, she's like, oh, no, you were born here in the Cabrini Green hospital area or whatever. So that's where he goes and sees his mom, and his mom admits, yes, we lived in Cabrini Green, but after the events of the first movie, we moved to the South Side to kind of leave all that behind. Okay.
Why would you lie to your child about where they were born? I mean, that just seemed
I
random.
think she was saying, like, they did not want to have any discussions about the Candyman. They didn't want it to be like, she just wanted to forget it. She wanted the whole community to kind of leave it behind. Although it's clear.
What? I was born at the North Hospital? Am I the son of Candyman?
Right. Well, I guess she didn't want to have, hey, we used to live at that old project that got torn down, but then you were almost murdered and the Candyman was dancing around, so we decided to bail. She didn't want it.
We don't have to go into all the details. We don't go into the details of your conception and how much and if I was drunk or anything. Just naming your hospital doesn't necessarily reveal all that. Heavens to Betsy.
Who's to say? Oh, sweet Jesus. Then I wrote down Deadly Pen because the crazy old laundromat owner did the ritual on the protagonist. And then the girlfriend brutally murders him by stabbing him with a ballpoint pen, I think. Kills him.
That kind of stuff always reminds me of Evil Dead with the pencil and the
pen
ankle.
Is mightier than the sword? Is that what we're supposed to take away from this?
I don't know, but it seems more painful.
It does. And then, of course, the cops arrive, kill him, unwittingly, like awakening the curse or whatever. She's about to be arrested because they're basically like, if you don't go along with our side of the story, then maybe Candyman had an accomplice. So they are threatening to blackmail her. And she says, can I look in the rearview mirror? And he's like, why? And she says Candyman 5 times in the rearview mirror. He promptly appears, kills 4 cops. Boom, boom, boom. She runs after him, and then it's the grand reveal that it's Tony Todd is back, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that was great. That was great.
And I was hoping he'd come back. He's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it wasn't, I don't think it was just Tony Todd. It seemed like a series of faces.
It was Tony Todd having been like digitally, at the end it was Tony Todd digitally re-aged. Or de-aged, because he looked strange, because it's been 30 years.
He looks terrible.
It's been 30 years. Give the guy a break.
Right.
They can't all be Vanessa Williams.
That's true.
That's the cold, hard reality. So, and that's the end.
It would have been great if they threw in like a little George Floyd or something like that in there.
Although that's a little too real, though, I think. When you start putting, but I guess you're right, they had references to Emmett Till. I guess it's all real at this stage of the game. Sad situation.
Yeah. So at the end, this is my takeaway. So at this point, we're saying in the past that different people have been the Candyman. At this point, my understanding is they have now all merged together.
I have no idea.
That was my idea. Like the Candyman is in reality all the people from history that have been murdered by white society, and now it's going to be an avenging angel. That was my takeaway at the end when you saw the different faces flash by.
It seemed like that's what they were trying to say. But
which would make then a perfect for the next movie where Candyman enters the Marvel universe. And now when you're in trouble, you have someone to call on. African Americans have someone to call on.
I'm not sure they're going to make a sequel, but if they made a sequel,
who are you going to call? Candyman.
Literally, you're getting hassled by the cops. You just say Candyman 5 times, then he comes and kills the cops.
Candyman.
Perhaps.
Okay, totally. This could do it. But Candyman knows everything. So if you're just doing it because you're a bad dude and you want to get out of trouble, then Candyman takes you. So you better make sure why you're calling.
So it's like
Candyman.
Krampus.
because Candyman knows. He's like Santa. He's like Krampus and Santa Claus. He knows if you're sleeping. He knows if you're awake. He knows if you just robbed that liquor store. So be good for goodness
Yes,
sake.
just robbed that liquor. You remember that old rhyme as children. There are a couple hilarious quotes that I wrote down. And they were both, I think they were both said by her brother, Troy. He said, black people.
Her brother is beautiful.
He stole the show. He was great.
I love her brother.
He said, black people don't need to be summoning shit. That was the first one. And then he said, ain't a dick on the planet good enough to offset a demonology hobby. That's true.
Yeah, exactly. Another classic on.
Those are absolutely true.
We needed more of him. He was the comedy hilarity.
Well, and he's the one who introduced the story of Candyman into their home, I guess. So he's the inciting incident.
Yeah, and smart enough to not go stand in the mirror and say it 5 times.
That's right. Let's go behind the scenes. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
We talked about how production was brought back to the Cabrini Green neighborhood, but the high-rise buildings have long been demolished, like decades ago. So that's why they kind of had to make do, where he's wandering around the row houses, which are not a place that they really showed at all in the original Candyman movie. So
that's what I was saying. I would rather be in the row houses than the high-rise.
This movie is a direct sequel to the original Candyman and ignored the events of Farewell to the Flesh and Hello to the Flesh, whatever those movies were called. I don't remember. Flesh Gordon. The opening credits of the original Candyman featured moving footage of Chicago filmed from above. And in this movie, the opening credits featured moving footage of the film filmed from below, from like street level. So it's like they kind of inverted what they did in the original movie. We talked about how the opening company cards and the opening titles were all shown backwards as if from a mirror. So that was kind of interesting.
Mirror image. Yeah, that was a good choice.
Stanfield was considered for the role of Anthony McCoy, the protagonist, but turned it down to do Judas and the Black Messiah instead, which was nominated, so maybe it was worth it. Maybe that was a good choice. The crew actually encountered a bee infestation during filming, so maybe that's something. Because bees doing bee things. Upon the second day of its release, the film dethroned Free Guy to be the top of the box office and made Nia DaCosta the first black female director as the holder of the box office record. So, boom.
All right, good.
Jordan Peele was originally attached to direct it, but early in production he moved to a producer's role. So there you go. Reuses the same Foley sound of the crying baby from the original film. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's interesting.
If you're paying attention, there are a lot of references to Clive Barker in this movie. The most overt...
Well, of course, there should be, since he wrote the short story. It started the whole ball rolling.
The original movie was loosely based upon the Clive Barker novella, The Forbidden, which features a character called the Candyman. But all of the mythology, as we talked about before on our original Candyman episode, was made up for the movie, and that's why it makes no GD sense.
I was asking you if you read any of Clive Barker's stories.
I have. I read the original Book of Blood, which had a lot of the stories that were made into movies. I don't know if I've read The Forbidden, but I've read many of them.
In my mind, it's all bondage and S&M.
Oh, absolutely. It's basically, yes. If you've seen Hellraiser, then you know what it's all about.
This is Clive Barker's sexual fantasies all realized. Right.
So like we said, it's like the original Candyman movie was very loosely based upon a novella by Clive Barker called The Forbidden, where it's like a white college student or something goes to investigate a source of graffiti from the mysterious Candyman, basically. And they took that the writers of the original movie, and then added all this crazy mythology. The hook, the bees, saying stuff in the mirror 5 times. That's all just made up from various urban legends and combined and swirled together.
Right.
Good times. So let's see what else we can say. Oh, like we said.
Yeah.
So like we said, so the curator of the museum, the first museum, his first name was Clive. And if you are paying attention, the laundromat guy at one point is sitting there reading a Clive Barker novel. He's reading Weave World by Clive Barker. So there you go. Good times had by all.
I totally missed that too. I hate it when I miss things.
It's very upsetting. This is the shortest Candyman film at only 91 minutes. And it's the first Candyman.
Unlike the movie that we also reviewed, The Swarm, that was 2 hours and a half. Sweet baby Jesus.
This is Sweet Baby Jesus time. This is the first Candyman film without the involvement of Clive Barker at all. Not involved. So there you go. I think that's all we need to know. Shall we talk about the cast?
Please do.
Who, like I said, were quite good, I must say.
Yes.
Anthony McCoy, the main character, was played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. You know him. He's actually been in quite a bunch lately. He was Black Manta in the Aquaman movie.
Didn't see it.
He was in he was Bobby Seale in The Trial of Chicago 7.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was good. He was also in the HBO miniseries Watchmen. He's everywhere. He was in freaking Us. He played the father of the little girl in Us.
Okay.
From the past, from the 80s or whatever.
Right. Old dad.
Old dad, right. And obviously he played crazy old dad in The Underground. It was the same actor, obviously. So, all right. Good times. Tiana Paris played Brianna Cartwright, which was the girlfriend. And she looked her
familiar.
Most recently, we saw her in WandaVision, but she's also in Dear White People, Chirac, If Beale Street Could Talk, and some other things.
Apparently, I don't know her at all.
Don't know her at all. Nathan Stewart Jarrett played Troy, her brother, and you might know him from Misfits, Mope, a few other things I've never even heard of. So he's very good, though. I might have to go see what he's up to. Coleman Domingo played William Burke, the laundromat owner. Most recently, he's on Fear the Walking Dead. He's been on that since the show started. He was also in Lincoln, Selma, and The Birth of a Nation, If Beale Street Could Talk, a bunch of things. Aaron, are you there?
I'm there. I just don't know any of these movies. I've turned away from all social issues. I've literally stopped reading the books from my book club because at this point I just want some escapism.
I understand. Vanessa Williams is back as Anne Marie McCoy. You remember her from the original Candyman. She's also in New Jack City. She was in the Soul Food TV series. She was on Murder One, that TV series back in the 90s. All sorts of good stuff. I
say New Jack City all the time.
America. Do you really?
Yeah, but I've never seen it. I'm like, what is this, New Jack City?
Oh, you say New Jack City, but you've never seen.
I've never seen it. I just like to say New Jack City.
I understand. No,
and what city is New Jack City?
It's any ghetto USA.
Oh, okay.
That's what they call it in. That's what they call it in. I'm gonna get you, sucker. Is any ghetto USA? No, it's a mythical big city. Is what it's just
like Gotham.
Like Gotham, Metropolis, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
She was an actress before Vanessa L. Williams. Remember, Vanessa L. Williams, the former Miss America who became a singer and then became an actress. Her first movie credited her as Vanessa Williams, but she got sued because there was already a Vanessa Williams. So that's why at some point she started being called Vanessa L. Williams to differentiate. So there you go. So thank you very much.
Wait, you didn't even do the ratings. Are you on the drugs? The vid is in your brain?
The vid has just struck me down. Rotten Tomatoes gives this version of Candyman 84% fresh, while the audience score only gives it 73%.
I think a B rating is appropriate.
I don't disagree. I said I saw it with our sister Tara.
And what did she say?
Walking out, she said it was dog crap. So I do not necessarily agree with that. Although it's by no means my favorite film. Peter Travers liked it. He said the scares are off the charts, but only as a means to confront the film's heavy messaging about racial injustice.
The scares are not... Peter Travers, shut your mouth, old man. You are wrong. There are not any scares.
I didn't find it very scary. There were scenes that I thought were very well done, and I liked the way they were kind of setting up the mood, but I really wasn't scared at all. Maybe I'm just jaded and insane. Is that possible? Who's to say? I think that's it. Those are all the top critics. Good times. There's a bunch of other people from the QAnon Monthly, but I don't know anything about it. Okay, we talked about Peter Travers' rating. What is your rating, Aaron?
My rating is this gets a very low 4 out of 5 pussy bee stings.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5 gangrenous hand claws. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. There are things I liked it very, very much. But I found the ending anticlimactic, and overall I didn't find it particularly scary at all.
So which one do you think is better?
This is a hard question. I was thinking about this earlier because I love the original Candyman, but is that a lot of just nostalgia? You know what I mean? Is it because
I was thinking the same thing. It's almost like it's a draw, you know? It's almost a draw.
Yeah. I just like Tony Todd so much.
I know. I like Tony Todd also.
So it's hard to say.
I say the first one is scarier. The first one is scarier, I think.
Yeah. Well, because Candyman, we see a lot more of Candyman doing Candyman things in the first one.
Oh. And going through the walls and stuff, that was really creepy stuff. And that was definitely scarier in the first.
I agree. So there you have it. Thank you very much. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Aaron, we're on Instagram.
We are on Instagram. And coincidentally, it's The Podcast That Wouldn't Die.
With extra underscores for your enjoyment. You
and
can
an
also
umlaut.
You got to throw those umlauts in there and tildes. You can go ahead and email us at thepodcastthatwouldn'tdie@gmail. We are on.
That's all one word, kid.
All one word, no punctuation. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. Anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and review, for God's sakes, won't you?
5 star, 5 star, 5 star.
Next week, we are doing the immortal classic, Life Force, with naked space aliens. On Twitter yesterday, they were talking about what's your favorite vampire movie, and it was like, well, you got Life Force with naked alien vampires, or you got The Hunger with naked 80s vampires. Take your pick.
Okay, first of all, you know I love The Hunger.
I know you do. There's a hunger inside you. Anyway,
So am I? I saw that on Twitter. It was a spoiler because I didn't know what Life Force was about. Now I know.
it is available for free on Pluto TV with ads. So you have that to
All
look
right.
forward to. So enjoy.
All right.
Enjoy. And I think that's about that. So, Aaron, what is your social media situation?
Oh, it's a situation, all right. So I am the Cult of Aaron on the Instagram. I'm also Don't Feed the Pigeon on Instagram. I am on the Twitski, but don't send me direct messages. Thank you.
Do not attempt to contact her directly. Damn it.
Keep it above board. Keep it into the stream.
That's it. So, thank
That's
you very much and be well.
Peace, babies.